The cry in the void, the Velari homeworld, floated quietly in the deep void of space, its silver ocean shining under the light of two suns. Life here was slow, peaceful, and full of gentle songs from the wind. No one expected death to come from the stars, but it did. The Crexians arrived without warning, black ships like sharp blades cutting through the darkness. They came with no greetings, no demands, only weapons firing. In the first hour, the Velari defense grid was destroyed. In the second hour, their orbital stations fell like sparks into the atmosphere. The Velari were not warriors. Their ships were old and slow. Their weapons were small compared to the massive cannons on the Crexian warships. Families hid underground while the skies burned red. The council gathered in their great hall, voices shaking. Some wanted to surrender, others wanted to fight, until nothing was left. But one elder remembered something else. In a quiet corner of the hall, behind locked doors, was an old device. It was older than the council itself, passed down from a time when the Velari still explored the stars. It was a beacon, a distress signal built by civilizations long gone. It was said to be a cry that only certain species would understand. "They won't answer," one council member whispered. "No one answers calls like this anymore." "Someone might," the elder replied, and his trembling hands pressed the switch. Far above the burning world, the beacon activated. A pulse of coded light shot out into the void. It carried no names, no coordinates that needed translation, only one meaning: "Help us, we are dying." The Crexians did not notice. They were too busy hunting survivors and stripping the planet's surface. The signal traveled for hours, then days, jumping through relay satellites that had not been touched for centuries. It crossed borders, it passed dead systems, and then, in a lonely sector at the edge of mapped space, it reached a place most aliens avoided: Earth, inside the vast steel heart of the Deathworlder Fleet Command. Alarms rang. The old signal code flashed on every screen. Human officers looked at one another. Some had only heard of this type of distress call in history lessons. Admiral Hayes, a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that seemed to see through walls, stepped forward. "Where did it come from?" she asked. "Outer Rim Velari system," the officer replied. "No allies there, no military worth sending." "Then we go," Hayes said, without hesitation. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the Deathworlder Fleet never ignored a call for help. Still, the Velari system was far, and the Crexians were not just raiders. They were predators who fed on fear. Fleet Command came alive, orders were shouted, coordinates locked, massive human warships prepared for FTL jump. They were painted in dark gray, with hulls built to survive hell, the kind of ships the galaxy whispered about in fear. Out in the Velari skies, the council huddled together, watching the destruction through trembling hands. No one spoke of the beacon, no one dared to hope. But deep in the void, human engines roared to life. The fleet stretched across the darkness, ready to tear through space itself. The Crexian commander laughed in his chair, his claws tapping the armrest. "No one will come for them," he said to his officers. "They are alone." He did not know that far away, 100 Deathworlder ships were already on their way, and when the humans arrived, they would not knock, they would not talk, they would bring fire and steel. The Velari had sent a cry into the void. The Deathworlders had heard it, and they were coming. The arrival of shadows, the Crexian fleet hung above the Velari world like a swarm of black knives. Their ships moved slowly now, not because they feared attack, but because they enjoyed the suffering below. Every fire they saw from orbit was a victory to them. On the surface, the Velari people could hear the low hum of the Crexian ships through the air. It was a sound like a predator's growl, one that never stopped. Some children covered their ears. Some elders prayed to gods that had not answered for centuries. High in the Crexian flagship, Commander Threx leaned forward in his seat, his wide jaw curling into something like a smile. "We will finish the harvest by nightfall," he said, his voice low and cruel. "Then, burn what is left." His crew hissed their approval, claws scraping the metal floor. But deep in the blackness beyond their sensors, something else moved. It began as faint shadows at the edge of detection. Strange readings flickering on Crexian scanners. One officer frowned. "Sir, I am detecting multiple large mass signatures entering the system." Threx didn't even look up. "Probably debris. Ignore it." Then the first shape appeared. A massive silhouette sliding out of faster-than-light travel. Its hull was dark, its angles sharp. It carried no bright banners. Only the silent mark of the Deathworlder Fleet. Another shape followed, then another, and another, until the stars themselves seemed to vanish, replaced by walls of steel. From the Valari capital's tallest spire, a young watchkeeper stared at the sky, her voice shaking as she called into the underground shelter. "Something is here, ships, huge ships." Her people didn't dare believe it. In orbit. The Crexian bridge crew scrambled to make sense of the readings. "Sir, there are at least 20 capital-class vessels, more arriving," an officer said. Panic starting to break through his discipline. Threx stood now, his claws curling tight. "Identify them," he ordered. The answer came like a death sentence. "Deathworlders." For a moment, no one spoke. The word was heavy, ancient in the galaxy's memory. A reminder of this species from a planet that killed its own with storms, quakes, and predators. A species that had learned to survive by becoming more dangerous than anything else. The humans did not open any communication channel. No speeches, no threats, only movement. The entire fleet slid into a perfect attack formation, their dark hulls reflecting nothing but the cold starlight. From the human flagship Iron Resolve, Admiral Hayes stood at the center of the bridge, her eyes locked on the tactical display. "Maintain silent approach," she said. "Weapons ready." Her crew obeyed without question. Valari civilians in the underground shelters felt the tremor as something broke through the atmosphere high above. But it was not an attack. It was the sonic crack of human dropships positioning for rapid deployment. The Crexians, still unsure of human intentions, tried a single hail, "Unidentified fleet. This is Crexian Command. You are entering restricted operation space. Leave or be fired upon." No reply came. Only the deep hum of human engines as the formation tightened inside Iron Resolve. The weapons officers waited, their fingers hovering over controls that could tear through Crexian armor in seconds. "All ships," Haz said calmly. "Lock targets." The Crexians realized too late that the humans were not here to negotiate. The Valari, watching from broken rooftops, saw tiny flashes in the distance as human railguns charged. The air seemed to hold its breath. Then the first shot came, a beam of light so fast that the Crexian destroyer it struck didn't even have time to raise full shields. The ship cracked apart, spilling fire and debris into the void. The Crexian fleet roared to life, weapons firing wildly. But the humans were already moving, their ships sliding like predators through the chaos, striking from angles the Crexians couldn't predict. From the ground, the Valari saw the sky come alive with silent fire, explosions blooming like strange flowers in space, each one a Crexian ship dying. The humans still did not speak. They did not need to. They had answered the cry for help. And now, the shadows had arrived to hunt. The Deathworlder way, the Crexian fleet had fought many battles in their time. They had raided dozens of worlds. They had crushed weaker fleets in minutes. They thought they understood war, but they had never fought Deathworlders. Humans were not. Born into a safe galaxy, their home, Earth, was a place of storms that could tear cities apart, seas that could swallow whole fleets. Animals with teeth like knives, and sicknesses that could kill in days. Every human learned to fight to live. It was part of them on the flagship Iron Resolve. Admiral Hayes studied the battlefield with cold precision. Her eyes followed every movement of the Crexian ships. "They will break," she said quietly. "They just don't know it yet." Around her, the crew of humans worked like one body. There was no shouting, only calm voices and quick hands. This was the Deathworlder way. Never waste energy on noise. Never give the enemy a hint of what you feel. Move like predators. Strike only when it will hurt the most in the control pits below. Tactical officers locked onto targets with railguns and missile batteries, each weapon synced with the others so that no shot was wasted. They did not fire for show. Every round had a purpose. Every strike was chosen to cripple or kill. Outside, the human fleet shifted position again, moving in a way that looked almost alive. Crexian captains tried to predict the pattern but failed. The humans did not fight in straight lines. They fought like hunters circling prey. One Crexian cruiser attempted to flank a smaller human frigate the moment it turned. A hidden destroyer slipped from behind a moon and fired 3 plasma torpedoes. Straight into its engines, the cruiser exploded before it could even call for help. The Crexians had numbers, but numbers meant nothing if the enemy refused to fight on your terms. Meanwhile, deep underground on the Velari homeworld, the Council listened to reports from survivors. The new fleet fights differently, a Velari pilot said over the comms. They are not like the other races. They don't defend, they hunt on the Iron Resolve. Admiral Hayes issued her next order. Begin Wolf Run, the bridge crew did not ask for explanation. They had trained for this move countless times. In an instant, half the fleet accelerated toward the Crexian center. Guns firing in rapid bursts, the Crexians focused all fire on them, thinking they were the main attack, but the humans had planned for that. From the far side of the system, the other half of the fleet appeared, having circled at high speed under silent drives. They came in behind the Crexian formation, cutting off their escape. The Crexians panicked. Some captains ordered full retreat. Others screamed for reinforcements, but no help would come. Inside the Iron Resolve, Hayes leaned forward. Target their flagships first. In space, the order was death. Massive railgun rounds punched through the Crexian command ships, scattering them into silent, burning fragments. The rest of the fleet began to collapse, and still, the humans did not open a channel. They did not give speeches. They did not explain themselves. They were there to fight, and the fight was not over. For the Velari watching from their ruined cities, it was a strange sight. These were not allies they had called before. These were strangers from a deadly world far away, and yet they fought like the Velari's lives mattered. One Velari child, hiding in a shelter, whispered to her mother, "The shadows are protecting us." And in a way, she was right. The humans were like shadows, silent, dangerous, and unstoppable once they chose a target. By the time the Crexian fleet realized, they were doomed. The humans had already begun their next move. Boarding parties launched from the frigates and cruisers, headed straight for the enemy ships. The Deathworlder way was simple. If the enemy might return, make sure they never can. Fire across the stars. The first shot had been enough to change the shape of the battle. But now the full storm was coming, in the cold black above the Velari world. Fire began to bloom like deadly flowers, each one born from the guns of the Deathworlder Fleet. From the bridge of the Iron Resolve, Admiral Hayes gave a single nod. All ships, full engagement. Her voice was calm, almost quiet, but to her crew, it was the signal they had been waiting for. Railguns roared, their rounds glowing hot as they cut through the void. The impacts on Crexian hulls were like hammers striking glass. Plating shattered, decks buckled, air and fire spilled out into space. The Crexian fleet tried to respond with everything they had. Plasma beams sliced toward human ships. Missiles streaked through the darkness. But the humans did not fight like prey. They moved like hunters, each ship rolling and twisting in tight patterns, dodging fire and returning it with precision. A Velari communications officer hiding in a bunker on the surface could see the battle on a cracked holoscreen. She covered her mouth, eyes wide. "They are tearing them apart," she whispered. The Crexians had never faced this kind of coordination. Their ships fought like individuals, each captain trying to win glory. The humans fought as one mind, their ships speaking silently through encrypted bursts of data, every movement fitting into the larger kill pattern. A pair of human destroyers worked together to trap a Crexian gunship between them. one firing to force the ship into a turn, the other waiting on the opposite side. A single railgun shot from point-blank range split the gunship into two flaming halves. Above them, a massive human battleship named Vanguard unleashed a broadside, its heavy cannons pounding a Cruxian cruiser until the enemy shields collapsed. Then one final shot punched straight through the center. Explosions lit the space between the fleets, casting strange shadows over the Valari cities below. Some civilians dared to come out of hiding, staring upward at the strange war in the stars still. The Cruxians tried to regroup, their commander shouting orders over a failing com channel. Hold formation, strike at their lead ships. But the humans had no single lead ship. Their strength was spread through the entire formation. Admiral Hayes stood with her hands clasped behind her back, her eyes scanning the tactical map. Push them to the planet's far side. Force them into open space, she ordered. The human ships obeyed instantly, hammering the Cruxians until they began to fall back toward the planet's shadow. But the retreat was an illusion. The humans wanted them to move, to expose their backs to the second human wave waiting beyond the planet's orbit. When the Cruxians reached the trap, the hidden ships opened fire. The sudden crossfire tore into them without mercy. One Cruxian battleship took 3 direct hits to its engines, spinning helplessly before exploding into a cloud of molten metal. The humans pressed harder, their fleet moving in close now, not afraid to fight at knife range. Railgun slugs, plasma bursts, and missile trails filled the black void until it looked like the stars themselves were moving on the surface. The Valari watched the sky and felt something they had not felt since the first attack. Hope. In the middle of the chaos, a human frigate named Grey Wolf took heavy fire from 2 Cruxian destroyers. Its shields buckled, armor cracked, but instead of falling back, the ship accelerated straight toward the nearest destroyer, ramming its side and tearing open the hull. Human marines poured into the breach before the Cruxians could seal it. Everywhere, Cruxian ships were dying, but the humans didn't stop to count. They fought until the enemy had no more weapons, no more engines, no more will to fight. By the time the last Cruxian cruiser tried to run, it was already too late. A salvo from the Iron Resolve caught it mid-jump, tearing it into burning fragments that scattered like ash into the dark. Silence began to fall over the battlefield. Only the crackle of damaged comms and the faint hum of engines remained. The space above the Valari world was clear, but the war was not over yet. The humans had seen what the Cruxians had done on the surface, and they would not leave until it was set right. For the first time in days, the Valari could see their twin suns without the shadow of enemy ships, and they knew the Deathworlders had come, and they were not leaving until the threat was gone. The ground breakers, the battle in space had turned. The Cruxian fleet was broken, their ships scattered and burning. But below, the Valari homeworld was still under siege. Cruxian ground forces roamed through cities, tearing apart homes, dragging civilians from shelters. Fire and smoke covered the streets. On the bridge of the Iron Resolve, Admiral Hayes gave her next order. Begin planetary drop. Her voice was calm, but everyone knew what it meant. Across the human fleet, hangar doors opened. Drop pods and heavy landing craft roared to life, their hulls thick with armor, their engines built to punch through enemy fire. Inside each craft, human soldiers sat in silence, their weapons ready, their faces hidden behind black visors. For the Valari still alive on the surface, the first sign was a deep rumble in the sky. At first, they thought it was more Cruxian reinforcements, but then they saw the streaks of fire cutting through the clouds. Dozens, then hundreds of them. The Cruxians on the ground looked up too, their commanders shouting orders. Anti-air batteries, fire now! Green bursts of plasma reached into the sky, but the human dropships kept coming, weaving through the fire, losing only a few before they slammed down into the streets, fields, and city squares. The first ramp dropped with a heavy clang, and the humans stepped out. They did not run. They moved with precision, their armor black and silver, their weapons short and deadly. They scanned every shadow, every corner. their boots shaking the broken streets in the burning ruins of the Valari capital. A group of civilians huddled behind a collapsed wall. They watched as a human soldier approached, his visor reflecting the flames. He knelt down, offering a water pack to a young Valari child. The child reached out slowly, trembling, then clung to the soldier's hand, refusing to let go. All across the city, the same thing was happening. Human squads fanned out, engaging Cruxian soldiers in brutal street battles. The humans fought without hesitation, every move practiced, every shot deliberate. One Cruxian gunner set up a heavy plasma cannon on a rooftop, but before he could fire, a human sniper round punched through his chestplate, dropping him instantly. The humans did not shout in victory. They simply moved on to the next target. In the old marketplace, a Cruxian squad cornered a group of Valari elders, ready to cut them down. A roar of engines filled the air as a human combat walker crashed through the wall, its twin cannons shredding the Cruxians before they could react. The walker's pilot leaned out, shouting to the elders, "Move to the safe zone now." The Valari obeyed without question. In the industrial sector, human engineers worked alongside soldiers, shutting down Cruxian power grids and cutting their communications, with no way to call for help. The remaining Cruxian forces began to panic, but there was no escape. The humans pushed them back block by block, using a mix of speed and force the Cruxians could not match. In less than an hour, the capital's main square was under human control, inside a fortified Cruxian command post. Their ground commander paced in rage. "These humans, they fight like predators," he growled. "They don't stop outside." A human breaching team prepared explosives. One short blast later, the doors were gone. The humans stormed in, clearing the room in seconds. The Cruxian commander fell without ceremony. By the time the suns began to dip toward the horizon, the battle was over in the capital. Human medics moved through the streets, tending to Valari wounded before treating their own. Food and clean water were handed out. The burning buildings were sprayed down. In a quiet corner near the market, the same Valari child who had taken the soldier's hand earlier now sat on a crate, sipping water. She looked up at the towering human beside her. "Will you stay?" she asked softly. The soldier knelt down again, his voice low but steady. "As long as you need us." For the Valari people, that was enough. For the first time since the attack began, they felt safe. Above them, the Deathworlder Fleet remained in orbit, watching, guarding, and ready to strike again if any Cruxian dared return. The humans had not just come to fight. They had come to hold the ground, to rebuild what had been broken. And the galaxy would soon learn that once the Deathworlders set foot on a world, they did not leave it unprotected. The message to the galaxy, the fires in the Valari capital had begun to fade, but the memory of what happened would burn in the minds of every survivor. The Cruxians were gone, their ships destroyed, their soldiers either dead or taken prisoner above the planet. The Deathworlder Fleet still hung in the sky like silent guardians. From the bridge of the Iron Resolve, Admiral Hayes sent a single transmission to the Valari Council. Her words were short. "Your world is safe now." Then the channel closed. There were no long speeches, no requests for payment. The humans did not stay for thanks, they stayed because it was their way. But while the Valari rebuilt their homes, the rest of the galaxy was already whispering. In the deep shadow of the Vexor Belt, pirate captains met in secret. They had heard the reports. Entire Cruxian fleets reduced to debris in hours. Ground forces wiped out before they could even regroup. One scarred captain spat on the floor. If the Deathworlders answered one cry, they might answer another. His crew shifted uncomfortably. No pirate wanted to risk attracting human attention. On the trade stations of the Zarn Republic, merchants replayed the same piece of captured battle footage over and over. It showed a single human battleship, the Vanguard, tearing through 3 Cruxian cruisers like they were made of paper. Traders who once saw humans as primitive now spoke with caution, wondering if alliances should be made before it was too late. Even in the cold halls of the Cruxian High Command, The loss was undeniable. Commanders argued in hushed voices. One slammed his fist against the table. They are only one species. They cannot fight us everywhere. But no one truly believed it. Deep down, they knew humans had something others did not. The will to keep fighting. No matter the cost, back on the Velari homeworld, the people were seeing this truth for themselves. In the city square, a human engineer worked side by side with Velari builders, repairing a shattered water line. Children followed him, offering small flowers as thanks. He smiled but said nothing, letting his work speak for him. The Velari Council decided to send a message across the galactic network. It was not just a thank you, it was a warning to anyone who might think them easy prey again. The message was simple. It showed the Deathworlder Fleet above their world. And the words, they came when no one else would. That message spread fast, faster than any trade route, reaching worlds where humans had never set foot. On some planets, it sparked hope. On others, fear, but on all of them, it left one truth behind: humans had the power to change the balance of the galaxy. In the days that followed, more distress calls began to reach human space. Some were genuine cries for help. Others were traps set by those hoping to study or capture human technology. The Deathworlder Fleet answered only the real ones, and when they did, they left no doubt about their strength. Admiral Hayes understood the weight of what they had done on Velari. It was not just about saving one world. It was about sending a message that would echo across every star system. She stood on the observation deck of the Iron Resolve, looking out at the twin suns of Velari. This was the first, she said quietly to herself. It will not be the last for the Velari. Life began to return. Markets reopened. Children played in the streets. The scars of battle remained, but the shadow of fear had lifted. Every time they looked up at the sky and saw the shape of a human ship passing overhead, they remembered the night the cry in the void had been answered, and far beyond their system, in the quiet corners of space where raiders plotted and warlords dreamed, there was a new unspoken rule, one passed from captain to captain, whispered in smoky rooms and over encrypted channels: never harm the helpless. Because if you do, the humans will come. The fleet that hears every cry. The Velari suns rose over a city that was no longer silent. The streets that once echoed with fear now carried the sounds of rebuilding. Hammers striking metal, voices calling orders, laughter of children who had forgotten what it felt like to play. The shadow of the Crexian fleet was gone, replaced by the steady watch of human ships still in orbit. In the center of the Velari capital, a new monument stood in the main square. It was simple, just a tall column of dark stone taken from the rubble. At its base was carved in both Velari script and human letters. They came when no one else would, every day. Survivors came to place flowers there. Some bowed their heads. Others stood in silence. But all of them remembered the moment they first saw the Deathworlder Fleet in their sky. Admiral Hayes stood at the edge of the square, her black uniform catching the morning light. She rarely visited planets after a mission, but this one was different. The Velari leader approached her, an elderly being with deep blue eyes. "You have given us more than our world back," he said. "You have given us the belief that we are not alone." Hayes only nodded. She did not speak easily of such things. The human fleet had already begun preparations to leave. Their work here was done, but before they jumped to their next location, Hayes called her officers together in the Iron Resolve's briefing room. The lights were dim, the room quiet. "We have made an impression," she said. "The galaxy is watching. Some will ask for help. Some will try to test us. We will be ready." Far away, across countless systems, the name Deathworlder Fleet now carried weight in pirate dens. Their stories had turned from boasting to warnings in government halls. Ambassadors discussed how to make sure they were never on the wrong side of human guns. On border stations, traders spoke of humans like one speaks of a storm, dangerous, unstoppable, but capable of bringing life after destruction. The Velari's message to the galaxy had spread wider than anyone expected. And now there was something new: hope in the weak, hesitation in the cruel. 2 days later, while the fleet was still in Valari space, a new distress signal came through. The COM officer reported it in a steady voice. Outer Rim, unaligned. Colony, same emergency code as Valari. The room fell silent for only a breath before Hayes gave her answer. Plot a course, as the fleet prepared to leave. Valari citizens gathered on rooftops to watch them go. Children waved at the massive ships, their shadows stretching long over the city. A few Valari pilots, once afraid to even take to the air, now flew small craft alongside the human fleet for a short farewell escort. When the final countdown began, the Iron Resolve led the way, her engines glowing bright against the darkness. One by one, the Deathworlder ships disappeared into faster-than-light space, leaving only the monument behind as proof they had ever been there, in the Valari capital. A mother held her child close, pointing to the empty sky. "Remember them," she whispered. "They are the ones who hear every cry." Light years away, the fleet emerged into another war, another desperate world, and without hesitation, they moved as they always did, silently, together, striking like predators against those who preyed. On the weak, the humans had no great empire, no vast claims of territory. They did not need them. Their strength was not in the worlds they owned, but in the lives they chose to protect. Every distress beacon sent across the galaxy carried this same small hope that somewhere, a Deathworlder ship would hear it, and when they did, fire and steel would follow, because that was the way of the fleet. The fleet that heard every cry, the fleet that always came.